And we know that no-days can be pretty volatile, but again, the numbers that we're seeing are not altogether terrible.
Not altogether terrible, Heidi, I agree, and it does suggest perhaps some upside for Singapore there. Looking through the figures, I see a huge increase in pharmaceutical exports actually on the month, up 174%, so maybe that reflects the broader pandemic that we're in. But I think, though, even with the slightly better than expected read for Singapore, I think the story does remain that the external backdrop is still soft, and that's what's critical for Singapore. It's a wide open economy. It's very export orientated. It doesn't have much going on the domestic side at the moment because of its own restrictions with the virus. And when you look at the external story, it's hard to see where that pickup is going to come from globally for its goods either. So there may be some bright spots on the electronic side of things there. Singapore is strong in that production and export side. There might be some bright spots on the pharmaceutical side. But I think overall the story has got to remain of downward pressure on exports for any country, including Singapore.
And Enda, we got also more benign numbers for Japan's GDP for the first quarter, a contraction. So yes, they're in recession territory, but at the same time, not as big of a contraction as expected. And the Japanese economy minister coming out and saying that perhaps April and May may have been more severe for Japan's economy. So although we're not seeing the impact as of yet, does it just mean that it will get worse from here?
I think so, Sherry. I think that's the story in Japan, really. The national emergency came into effect over the period that you just mentioned there. Analysts are talking about the worst contraction on record, in fact, for the current quarter. And one anecdote that's coming out of Japan, similar to China actually, is that the consumers are very wary. Even without a hard lockdown up there, they're keeping their purse shut and they're not going out doing as much shopping and consumption as they had done. And I think when you have that combined with what's happening on the business side of things, Tokyo and Osaka are still said to be quite sluggish by our own colleagues there. So I think the story remains one of a pretty soft domestic economy in Japan. And we know, just like with Singapore, that the external story isn't certainly there for them either. So I think by all accounts, the second quarter is looking pretty sluggish at best.